Yo, you there? Yo,
Why I say the content of this meeting is being sent to a third party, man?
no, it's on my YouTube.
Streaming live on YouTube, guy. What's
Yeah,
what's,
that's
what's
what I'm
going on
saying.
here?
But no one's watching it.
But anyone can at any moment.
Okay, but the point is, you want me? I'm saying you don't want to do it that way. I mean, it's up to you. I mean, I just want to keep it on. I want to have it on like file. Like, I want to go back to it.
But
I just
Zoom, you
need to
can
record it
record.
because the
Why is
issue is if I
it?
just downloaded it, if I just recorded it on Zoom, then I have to download it from my phone to the from Zoom to my phone, and then it like eats up. I only have so much data, so like if I just do it on the what you call it the live, then I get to store it, and I don't have to download anything. That's like the main thing.
Okay.
No, anyway, I apologize for not being more clear about that.
Well,
Um, all right. Anyway, so I'm just having some cholent, you
all I
know.
think I'm gonna mute my mic. Whatever.
All right. Anyway, the point is like this. I read this Torah. I told you about it, and I learned it with a couple people, and I was like, man, this is like definitely something. I'm sure Zakari's already heard a lot of it already, but to be able to just kind of like review it a little bit and kind of the Halachot, because it's like, when we think about like really making big changes, in America and world in general, but in America, it's like the music, and especially after we read this part. I mean, I'm sure a lot of it you've already heard before, and you may even know this particular sugya, but we're gonna go through that and some halakot on it on music. But it's like I think based off of everything we've seen and how music by corporations has been like manipulated and like used basically to like socially control and condition people largely for negativity, that it's just like I feel like the next leaders in the music industry, especially when you see like what's going on with like Puffy, and they're implicating a lot of other names involved in it, who's involved in a lot of this weird stuff that they're doing. It's like, you know what? The Frum Jews, the Orthodox Jews, like we have to go to musicians and teach them like, hey, there's a divine order and connection in music. And that's the real thing, right? And I don't think that conversation's ever happened. Anyway, so I'm gonna bring it up. So anyways, it's a sefer is called Lakute Etzot. Lakute Etzot. And basically it's like a compilation of teachings that Rav Nachman, that Rav Noson compiled with Rav Nachman. And so basically it's just different lessons, but the first lesson is on Nagila, like to rejoice, like music, right? And so so the ideas in here are very powerful. I just want to go over this idea and then halakha, and then definitely like want to discuss it with you. Anyway, so it starts off with, I'm just going to read the first line. It says, Al Yadei Nagila Dik Hedusha Meki Min Ume Alin. And it says, Umalakut Hakadusha Vezokin. So he says, okay, so he says like this: the holy
Wait.
melodies.
Can you scroll back up for a second? I was trying to finish read that line.
Oh, sorry, my bad.
Yeah. Only because I constantly now realize too, people translate obviously kedusha a certain way, but obviously there's several different ways you could interpret that, right? So I was just kind of trying to. Okay.
All right, so he says a holy melody gives the forces of holiness, but the music of the Sitra Akra, the other side, damages these forces and lengthens the exile. So he's saying this first point, he's saying that holy melodies give strength to holiness. So there's the holiness, and he says the other types of music that's not holy gives strength to the dark side, and it extends the exile. And he said, it makes people stumble and traps them like birds in a snare. And be very careful to listen to this kind of music at all. The musicians and singers who produce it have no religious intent whatsoever. On contrary, they only want to make money or become famous. Listening to this kind of music can seriously weaken your devotion to God, but the melodies played by the truly righteous, God fearing, can be very inspiring, and they can strengthen your devotion immensely. It's in Lakute. So he says, I think that's kind of self-explanatory. And he says, Hatikun, Shelo Yezik Lola Kola Nigia Vesiftra Achara. So he says study the Gemara at night. Studying the Gemara at night is a protection against the influences of the music on the other side. Yegei Nagila Kedusha Lekolim Lezekot. So he says, and holy melodies have the power to bring one to the level of prophecy. Music is founded on a true attachment. So he's saying like this. He's saying, I mean, I'm just speaking it out. I mean, we could say, but it's just saying that he's saying like this, and this is like really the context of the basis of Jewish music, right? The whole basis of Jewish music, Jewish of the Israelites, is to have melodies and rhythms and ideas that could bring people to a meditative state of prophecy. So it says Shay, it says it's Kesha mi takan hakola nigila vezoker leaviki nat malakut umishala. So he says in one, he said this is the part right here. So this is where it gets personal. He said one who sings with purity has kingship and power. He has the power to do whatever he wants. He can give life or death to whomever he wants, but he must be careful to judge all people in a scale of merit so as not to destroy the world. For God desires love and kindness, and he wants the world to endure. Let's keep going. Al Yadei Tikkun Habarit Zoked She'azika Het Kol. And it says Re Nato. And it says, in a person who
Listen,
achieves more.
I wonder
Huh?
why they're translating tikkun, differently than I've kind of seen each time. You know what I'm saying? A few different times here. Interesting. I want to pull up this on Safari. You scrolling so fast, my
Well,
brother.
well, like, but he's saying that when he says like he says Barit Zoked, when he's saying that Tikkun Barit, right?
Okay, okay, yeah.
He's saying like they're using like moral achieve moral purity.
Right. No, I'm with you. I'm in my
Yeah.
book
I know.
other.
It's like it's a translation. I know. You're right. You're totally right.
So
And I'm just reading mostly just for the kedusha. And so he says, a person who achieves moral purity when a person achieves moral purity has his voice also is also purified. Simply through hearing the sounds of his voice singing, God sees the enemies that is oppressing the Jewish people, which the 70 nations with their 70 languages. When God saves us from trouble, when a harsh decree is passed upon the Jews, God forbid, and one of the nations rises against us, it's very good to sing a song or anthem of that nation. When our cries and our sings are directed towards the heavens, God arouses God's love, and he looks down upon the troubles and saves us from the people oppressing us. So he's saying, like, in essence, like with a person who's achieved purity, a person who's went through tikkunim, people who did like all these types of things, when they achieve this level, that they have the ability that through their voice, when they sing, it could bring God's awareness, and God will look down and see if there's anything wrong with his people. And from there, he looks around and he sees anybody who's oppressing God's people, and he destroys them. And he says to even as a he gives us a technology here, which is you could even he says what speeds it up, makes it stronger, is when you sing songs by them. When you sing the songs by the nation that's trying to oppress you, it arouses God, and God comes and deals with your enemies for you. So it's an interesting point. He says, "Mikolo shel adam yekulim le da'at hachinat malakut shelo." He says, and from And from a person's voice, he can tell whether, he says, from a person's voice. So we hear someone talking. When you hear a person talking, you can tell whether he is powerful or not and to what degree. Everybody is certain, has a certain degree of power and influence, and it's recognized in his voice. Al Yadei Nagila Nima Takin Hadinim. And so he says, and he sweetens the harsh judgment. He said, music sweetens the harsh judgment. When you sing the words of prayer in a clear, bright voice, listen to this. The Shekhinah is robed in radiant garments, and this is how the harsh decrees are sweetened. So when we sing, that's why it's so important for us to have this thing, because we could remove so much judgment away from our nation by having songs of tefillah. So let's keep going. We're almost done. It says, Shemi'at kol negun ela kilina zemir memi nagan. Kasher l'shem shemayim hu dever gadol. So he says, and the man is endowed with an image-making faculty. So the man has this ability to create images with their words, right? You know, you see a guy and a girl gets mad at him and says, you know what, he sold me on a dream, right? So he created some image, which is one of the most powerful forces in life, because it is through this he forms his concepts. Because it is linked to the imagination, it is seriously prone to error, right? So this is the thing. So the concept is like, you know, because we have the ability to create images. Like I just heard an interesting interview with Elon Musk, and he was just saying a point. He said, like, you know, his biggest mistakes have been looking at things for what he wants them to be versus what they are, right? And so they're saying here that ability to create pictures and form images, it could be very confusing, because he said because it's linked to the imagination, it can still is prone to error. Good and evil are mixed up. But music played by the truly God-fearing, played for the sake of the heavens, has a wonderful power to subdue the wildness of the imagination, and is good, and the good is strife with the bad. Such music has the power to lift you from depression and inspire you with joy. And this is the way to develop good memory, which means to remember at all times that the world to come and the understanding of the things God has sent every day draws you closer to Him. When you have good memory, you are free of deception of surface appearance. Exactly what we're talking about. He says, like, so when you have good memory, it's like, well, how do people get caught up? They get caught up because they forget about the big picture, the whole dynamic. So it says, Eliade ha nigun shel hasadik hagadol ha'amiti. So he says, and there is a form of autism. What is this? Atheism. Sorry, there's a form of atheism from which there is no return. But the melodies of the truly great Tzaddik has the power to rise up the souls that have fallen into this. So the music of the righteous Tzaddik has the ability to bring people back to life. Ha nigunim asher yilal asavut she mizrim ha rishaim ve'alpi vohem mazikin. So he says ha'olam me'od, and he says in the miserable wailing of the songs of the wicked does a great damage, because people are easily influenced by them. But when the tzaddik sings his songs on the Shabbat, he elevates them to purity. So this is the thing. So this is a very powerful point, because we have a lot of music in our culture that's really dope. But you know, we have to say that some of it was made in the klipa. He says, but those songs that will create damage, he says, but when we sing them on Shabbat, we can elevate those songs to purity. This he says, but when the Siddiqui, the righteous, sing these songs on Shabbat, they elevate it and purify them. So we purify them. And that's why you can see so many songs in Chabad and other groups that are songs from Napoleon and these people and that people and this war. And you're like, wait, but these are songs by the going. Even, God forbid, even I've heard stories about churches that the melodies were took from, right? And so, but these songs were elevated. Now we see the Inyan behind it. He says, Nukun kalale shir yesh lachem kocha gadol lehami shi et hadam lehashem livarek. And he says, and this is then he says, and music has a tremendous power to draw you closer to God. They get into the habit of always singing a tune. This is from Rabbi Nachman. You always sing all this Rabbi Nachman, and it will give you a new life and send new joy into your soul. And then you'll be able to bind yourself to God, and especially good to sing on Shabbat in festivals and at the wedding ceremonies.
Fire, Zaku Baruch. I need like 4 minutes.
Yeah, go ahead, please. Go ahead. Yeah, 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 yeah. So the thing is, just it's this idea of just like really thinking about like what the power of a person that's singing, the faculty of singing, like the faculty of music, and how that faculty of music was in essence given to us as a loan. If someone has musical talent, musical ability, you know, that's something that Hashem gave them as an loan, as a way to bring good into the world, to elevate the world, right? And to be able to do that. And so I think that's the first point out of here, which is this dynamic of the dynamic of what is this mechanism of singing? What is this mechanism of voice? Why did Hashem give it to us? And He gave it to the singer on a loan, right? And on a loan, and on that loan, He says, "I'm going to give you this ability, but you got to use this ability to elevate people, to inspire people, to do good amongst people, and and by doing that, and by doing that, you by doing that you fulfill the purpose of why I gave you this gift." Right? So you could say that this conversation is bigger than just about music, as it is about the gifts that God gives to us, and how we are you supposed to use those gifts for the service Shem, right? As I eat some cholent, hold on. You got to eat cholent. Yeah, anybody goes to yeshiva knows you got to have cholent Erev Shabbos. You know what I mean? I went out and got some cholent. They got some sunflower seeds. It's like mishmar, Yeshiva at mishmar. which will come together and learn. We gotta start doing more mishmars and record them. Somebody just wrote in the chat and said, any new Torah insights from this week? A lot of new Torah insights. One of the insights one of the insights one of the insights is this idea of when the Torah says this by the sweat of your brow. When Adam Rishon is given these curses, right? Or everyone, Nachash, Chava, everybody, right? There's there's this dynamic where it says by the sweat of your brow, right? And so the sweat of your brow, when the sweat of your brow is basically what God said that Adam now had to do. He had to earn his bread through the sweat of his brow. So it's interpreted that now Adam had to work, right, to earn. As well, before everything was kind of like given to him. But then there's a famous story about Rabbi Meir. Now, Rabbi Meir, believed that his kids, he didn't have to worry about his kids. He didn't have so much money. But Rabbi Meir, his the thing was like, hey, you know what? The pasuk is, a righteous person will never go hungry, right? The person who does righteousness will never go hungry. So what does that mean? If the Torah is saying in Tehillim that a righteous person never goes hungry, what does it mean when the Torah tells us that Adam has to now earn everything through the sweat of his brow? Right? They had to really ponder that idea. What does that mean? Right? What does that mean? Right? So, I thought another issue. And you have the dynamic where, and you have the dynamic where, then you have the dynamic where later, you have the Jewish people, when they leave Mitzrayim, they don't have any food, right? They run out of their matzah. And so what happens? Hashem gives them man. They run out of the matzah, they get man. And man comes from the heavens. So what is this idea of sweating by the brow? So perhaps we could learn, because of the man, that we could say that was really the thing is that what Hashem is saying is that by the man we build the avoda of understanding that everything comes from Hashem. But Hashem says by Adam that he should earn everything by the sweat of the brow. So perhaps maybe we can learn when Hashem says that Adam has to learn everything by the sweat of the brow, that it's a perception, it's a curse. It's a curse that he perceives that he's getting everything by the sweat of the brow. And in that aspect of Adam was corrected during the man, right? It was corrected that he says, like, no, that curse was lifted off of man, of this idea of that I'm earning things by the sweat of the brow. That's an illusion, right? And that was the slavery, right? Because they were working, but they never earned, right? So maybe we could say that the tikkun of slavery is this aspect of people who believe that they were the ones who are manifesting things. So Hashem has to put them in an environment where they're working and they don't get paid. Why? Because they're learning the inyan of that Hashem provides pay for me, not my work. So I have to work for free. Right? I gotta work for free. Anyways, so Zakar, are you back?
Other people in here, man?
Huh?
You other people in here, man, or you just practicing, buddy?
No. I'm saying people come on the stream. They ask someone asked a question and said,
Mm-hmm.
"Have I had any new insights this week in the Torah?"
Right.
So I
This
just
is
responded to them.
live situation. You know what I'm saying? But okay.
Do you want to go into halakha real quick? Because that was just more like hashkafa. That was Rabbi Nachman on music.
Yeah, man. The floor is yours, man.
In 1 second. All right. So we do a little bit of halakha and then we'll be done. But it's just, I don't know, it's a big concept. And I just think this is the revolution. You know, people say, like, hey, to me, a Jewish musician teaches musicians how to be holy. That's just me. You know what I mean? Like, that's just my personal thought. Hold on 1 second. So let's go. Okay. 1 second. What is it? Won't come up. What's going on? Hold on 1 second. It's not letting me bring it up. Anyway, we'll end it here because it's not letting me bring it up. But the main point as a halakha that I was going to bring starts from the concept of why did Chazal have to start making halakot around music? It's because the music was at such a level of purity during the time of the Beis Hamikdash. When the Sanhedrin fell and people would sing songs, they would start incorporating lyrics and melodies that were not from the times of the Beis Hamikdash. And some of them even have idolatrous ideas in it. And so from there, Chazal went through a series of experiences to the generations of Tanaim and Achronim, all the way to the Rishonim on different views of music, all the way to the Amraim, all the way now to the Achronim, even to today, right? So, anyways, I was going to go through a brief history of that, but for whatever reason, it didn't start coming out. But it's all good. Anyways, we got the main point. Social responsibility. We'll talk more about it. I'm going to end the live just because whatever, save battery. Anyways, I'm going to hit you back.
All right.
Baruch atah Adonai le'olam, amen ve'amen.